This is always the highlight of ours and my being here, is being able to discuss with y'all what a patient advocate is and tell you a lot of our stories and talk about financial toxicity, everything that goes along with being Hispanic and trying to get proper treatment. So, again, thank you for attending. So I would first like to introduce Dr. Segura, who is from the University of Puerto Rico, who is my co-chair, and she will be moderating as soon as they talk through questions of their stories, and then she'll be moderating that, the discussion among them, plus the for questions from the audience. Next to her is Loriana Hernandez-Aldama, who is a leukemia and breast cancer survivor. So she has an extremely interesting story, and I think one that all of y'all will really appreciate. At the end, we have Daniel Garza, who is an actor, comedian, producer, and all-around funny guy. So he is a rectal cancer patient as well as HIV cancer patient, so or HIV patient. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Lorena to talk about her story.
It's okay to go after me because I'm going to bring you all down for a minute, and then he's the comedian that's going to bring you all back up. I'm going to try to lift you up at some point. Oh, where's the clicker? I'm sorry. This was a big change for me coming from TV, not having someone do my clicker or my prompter, so forgive me. And I think I'm skipping slides up. All right. Anyway, and they gave me 10 minutes and they're going to be very strict, so I have cards to stay on message for all of you, not 50 minutes. If you put a journalist in a cancer ward, you know we're going to come out with a story, and for me, I came out with many. Patients advocating was something so important to me, but it led me to my 3P protocol I shared on the mic a few days ago. Was it yesterday? Just yesterday? My 3P protocol to being possible called Prepare, Present, Prevail, which I believe can save patients, and we need to be doing this in our Latino communities, and I'll explain more about that. But first, a little about me. These slides are not in order, so it's okay, I'm going to just advance through in a minute. A little about me, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an Emmy Award-winning journalist, a proud 2-time cancer survivor, leukemia, and then on the 5th anniversary, during my celebration, I got a call saying, you have breast cancer. I really thought it was an absolute joke. And they said it was the gift, the price I paid, and the trade-off for going through my leukemia treatment. It was traumatic for me. I was separated from my then 2-year-old son for an entire year. And you talk about quarantine, that was real quarantine. Now I find myself, my sister, my Shiro, who gave me her bone marrow, saved my life, took care of me during my breast cancer treatment, now battling her own journey of breast cancer. It's been very traumatic for me, going through with cancer-related PTSD to my son. In advance, so you can see my family. We could talk, we may not have time to talk about Christmas, but it is very special because I'm here today. To my son, he tells me I'm his superhero, and I'll take it because in so many ways I had to go into superhuman powers to overcome all the barriers I faced, despite all the advantages I had going in as a medical reporter with so many connections and so many advantages. And to all of you, I'm your 1 in 4, and I've been your N1 many times. And you gave me, or Johns Hopkins gave me a 25% chance that I was going to walk out alive. But that was if I was German, not Cuban, or Afro-Cuban as I brought up. They didn't have these statistics. But I made it, and I believe part of the reason I was so privileged to make it was because I was at an institution that had clinical trials, and I had access to the expertise that could overcome and fill the voids where those statistics left off. As we talk about we Latinos, we are the largest, fastest growing minority group in the country. we will, over the next decade, face that 142% increase in cancer cases. I wish we could turn those numbers around, and I hope that we can. I hope that doesn't come to fruition. But as I say, if we're going to have those numbers and we want to improve patient outcomes, we need to start supporting patients like a pit crew supports its drivers to get to the finish line. We know that disparities plague us at record levels with access, risk factors, mortality, quality of life. It is what prompted me to launch my own nonprofit called Armor Up for Life, because I knew that that became my why and my purpose. And I said, if I lived, I used to cry with Johns Hopkins Jesus statue and said, if I lived, I would serve for the rest of my life, because as a journalist with a platform, I have an obligation to pay it forward. I get so emotional because I'm so blessed to be standing here today. But the system is broken, and every part of my turn, I mean, you put a journalist there for a year and you tell me you can't see your son, you just need to walk laps. There were so many stories I uncovered, and I said, this is not right. How did I not report on this in my entire year, 25 years as a journalist? The barriers like the child care, the transportation, the financial toxicity, the health literacy that I couldn't even understand, the diversity, the clinical trials they were offering to me. I needed someone to break them down for me, and I'm well educated, and I was a medical reporter. It didn't make sense to me. And then the psycho-oncology, which I brought up on the microphone earlier, that haunts me to this day. And I have to be transparent about it. I went from living a life as this high-profile anchor to fighting for my life and then going into survivorship, suicidal, wanting to take my own life because I didn't know how to get back up. And I had tools. I had wealthy friends, people at high levels, CEOs, friends at all walks of life, and I still didn't know how to get back up. And I wonder, what do the underserved do? So I may have left my career as a news anchor, but I have never left my push for answers. Disappointed with so many voids in the system, the treatment at the time had not changed in 40 years. I would ask my oncologist, because I reported from my bedside, every Wednesday I did a live report, and I said, what do I tell viewers? I am humiliated. I was a clean eating, green drinking, yoga enthusiast. I actually said on the air, and you probably all made fun of me, eat this to avoid cancer. Like, drink this green drink. Now we know bad things can still happen to you. But what my oncologist said, I said, what do I tell viewers? And he said, what you need to tell them is, and this was the biggest story of my career, is that rehabilitation matters. How you show up matters. He said, you know what? My hands are tied. Many of these patients don't show up fit, so they may have 25%, but I can't give them what I have. They have 12. He said, so at that moment, it became a light bulb moment. I said, we have to prepare our bodies for illness so we can present well our medical team, and then position ourselves to prevail. And we need to be doing that kind of risk reduction out in our Latino communities long before we're talking about the clinical trials, which yes, we need funding for. He said if their blood pressure's not good enough, their weight's not in check, they have other comorbidities, we have to tiptoe around their illnesses and water down their dose. We can't give them what we have. And his most poignant moment, and I use it on every slide, and unfortunately I don't have that slide, is he said, we can't kill you trying to save you. And I said, that's the biggest story of my career. We can't kill you trying to save you. It was like my eureka moment, and I went on the air, and when viewers would say, what can I people sending me? I said, stop sending me gifts. I'm giving it to the people on my unit. What you need to do is go get fit, because something's going to happen in your life. And when you get there, you want to be prepared so you can present well. You want the biggest dose of chemo, not the small bag, just because you can't handle it. Prepare, present, prevail became my message. Okay, maybe we're at a stop. That's okay. We roll with it. The other big thing I noticed was that my connections matter. But you should not have to be connected to improve your patient outcome. I was able to call everyone and get in at Johns Hopkins within 48 hours. I had chemo running through my veins. I was in with the best doctors. I had a bed waiting for me. Same story with breast cancer. I met with a surgeon without an appointment. Everything, all the doors were open for me. And I said, I struggled to survive. And if you don't even have those doors open, how are you making it? And I knew at that moment, between the prehab and the connections, that I had a job to do, and the story was much bigger than me. But here's the catch: physically fit, well connected, we think, oh, maybe she had it easy. No, I'm still suffering. There's constant trauma in my life. But the problem is my ethnic background still nearly killed me. Again, no research with my specific type of AML, no diversity in the clinical trials. And then recently during my breast cancer, they said, we never gave you the bone marrow we gave you. Your sister gave you a chip genetic marker that predisposes you for blood cancer. So now we cured you, we hope, for blood cancer, now you may get it again. And if I had leukemia today, she would not be allowed to be my donor. But we had no choice. My white counterparts in the hall had 4, 5, 6 donors on the registry list. I had none. And they said, without her, I would have succumbed to the disease and died. So we have work to do. It is my why. And recently, every day when I work with patients through my nonprofit Arm Art for Life, and now with my sister, it has been exhausting. And I'm an advocate, and I'm advocating for my sister. I've spent hours on the phone advocating for her to have a PET scan that was denied a return, having her chemo approved. And I would tell them, listen, I'm an unemployed reporter. You don't know who you're dealing with. I got time on my hands right now. And listen, I'm not going to stop. But you don't know who you're dealing with. And it took time. It took that day, but it was done. I mean, I didn't make any threats. I was very diplomatic, but I made it happen. And I said, what do you do if you don't have like an unemployed medical reporter working on your behalf? I also had to launch a GoFundMe for my sister. She works hourly as a pre-K teacher. She missed her screening, which is why she's a stage 3 breast cancer, because she couldn't afford to miss work. Now she's telling me she can't afford to go to treatment and can't pay her bills. So I had to launch a GoFundMe. A GoFundMe should not be a plan. So my call to action to all of you today is, rather than beat the odds, asking all of us patients to beat the odds, it is time that we go out in our communities and change the odds for patients. We need to invest in the risk reduction efforts, not just putting all the money in the diversity of clinical trials. Yes, we need it, but we need to start early in building the trust, talking to us in a way that we understand, so it can translate to patient outcomes. How we show up matters. And I know what I'm asking for, what all of you are asking for, as we've all gone up here on the stage and talked and expressed our concern. It's not impossible. We make it impossible when we stay in our lanes. We need to go back to our jobs, our companies, our organizations, set goals and vision, collaborate. We put a person on the moon, we've collaborated across the entire industry for vaccines, for COVID vaccines. We can go back, we know it's possible, we can do it. Oh, my time is up. I'm almost done. My point is, every patient should have a chance to survive like I do. Every patient should be possible. This is my book, Becoming the Story. As a journalist, they say you never want to become the story, and I became the story and had to answer the viewers. And it really is a labor of love. There's a lot of tears, there's a lot of depression. And I've been speaking for years, and I always try to let you know your work matters. And the reason why I'm up here speaking is because my depression and my suffering has been so bad that if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be here. I would have taken my life. So you all give me life, and you gave my son his mother back. So thank you for the work that you're doing each day.
Muy buenas tardes, buen provecho. So if it's confused you, I can speak Spanish. Buenas tardes. So as they said, that's me. So there you go, that's me. The reason I put those pictures up is the picture with the hat. That's me. The last picture I took before I was diagnosed with anal cancer. The picture in the middle is right in the middle of it all. I weighed 123 pounds. So that I weigh a little more than that now. And the last picture is the last photo I took, and it's more for vanity. I wanted to look how adorable I thought, and just for me. But that's the last photos I took. Buenas tardes, my name is Daniel G Garza. I'm an anal cancer survivor, and I come from an HIV background. I've been HIV positive for 21 years. And when I was diagnosed with anal cancer in 2015, but it's going to tell you how Mexican I am. I was diagnosed on 5 de Mayo. Thank you very much. On the way to go get some nachos, I was like, let's go see what is going on. And of course, anal cancer, I didn't want to get left behind. So, thank you. You get that one? Yeah. I have 1 million of butt puns, so stay tuned. One of the things that irritated me when I found out I had no cancer is that I've been teaching HIV education for about 14 years at that time. And not once did any of my doctors, any of my mentors, anything that I saw talk about cancer. And I didn't even realize that HIV positive people had a 35% higher chance of developing up to 25 different cancers. I did not know that, and I was irritated. It wasn't until I finally was diagnosed that I Googled. Thank you, Google. But when I was diagnosed, I was actually diagnosed with AIDS. This was back in 2000. We didn't have all the information at our hands like we do now. So I was mad. I was irritated. And I wasn't really mad at the doctors. I was mad at myself because I kind of sat on, no pun intended on that one, I kind of sat on the information of just teaching what I thought the basics of HIV. One of the things, I've been on social media since MySpace. Anybody MySpace? Yeah, thank you. I don't feel so old now. By the way, I still have MySpace. Please follow me. I'm 51 in case you're wondering, and you're like, you're so adorable. I know. First every morning. I asked God, money or looks, and he's like, don't look at your bank account. So I don't. By the way, let me just give you my resume before I keep going, because people are like, how are you making light of this? I'm an actor, I'm a comic, I'm a producer, director, I have my own production company, I host live stream shows, I wrote a children's book during the lockdown. I'm an HIV and anal cancer survivor and advocate. I'm a life coach, Reiki master, and I do card readings. So stop me, you might get purple. I said, you like, what are you Google? No, I'm not. But when you need your pecan pie, and I'll teach you cards. I just said, you know. I make light of it because I had to make fun of it. I was 44 when I got diagnosed. I was in a relationship for a couple of years. I was about to go shoot a movie. I was about to direct some stuff. I was living my life. All of a sudden, literally, anal cancer knocked me on my butt. And I was mad. And I had to learn to fight. I had to find a way to channel that anger. Because I looked at the pharmaceutical companies, I looked at my doctors, and I realized they didn't have the information that they needed from people that looked like me. So how could they help me if we weren't talking? So then I went to go talk to my people who were going through anal cancer, colorectal cancer. And unfortunately, they didn't want to talk. And I was like, how are we going to get this out? So on the way home from the doctor's office, I texted my sisters. One lives here in Mission, Texas. I'm from Monterrey. Anybody know? But I grew up in Texas. I'm a Texas boy. I was texting my sisters as we were driving, and I didn't even look at my partner. And I said, I'm going to make a video when I get home. And without even blinking, he goes, I'll push you over. Because I've been doing HIV education for years online. I use social media for everything. So go follow me, go check my YouTube page. It'll be up in a minute. And I knew that as an actor, as a stand-up comic, I was going to lose opportunities because people don't want to hire people for the set. But Sandy, stop it, you're not. I needed to get the word out, and I'm so glad that I did because over the last 7 years now, I've gotten feedback from people who are going through it that are not strong enough or don't feel strong enough to be able to share the information. I did a little homework. I didn't want it all to be funny. I didn't to be serious. So for this, I'm going to put my glasses on so you know I'm serious. There we go. Does it look serious enough? Thank you. Equity. I had to really look up what equity meant. And it's like fair and impartial. It's the value of the shares. And I'm like, but we're not sharing. As Latinos, we're so conditioned to not talk about health issues. We don't talk about it. We don't want anybody to know, no le digas a nadie. Pero no le digas a nadie. Aquí en la casa, ponle vaporub y se arregla todo. No. If you got that one, you're real Mexican. Puerto Rican, yeah. So I thought, first of all, this is my first cancer. I'm a virgin to the cancer conference. This is my first one. And I'm so excited. Thank you, Sandy Barber, for that. And I wanted to make sure that as a Latino man, why don't we talk about these things? Why are we so scared? Why have we made the vision? It is 2022 and we still don't want to talk about health issues. And then we go to the doctor and we wonder why they don't have anything for us. It's because we're not talking to them. We're not talking about what really matters. I'm also gay, just to figure it out. But as a gay man with anal cancer, we don't talk about these things either because we're so conditioned to not share that information. Being in a new relationship, I was really scared what I was going to do to my relationship. Because sex, my sexuality, my sharing with my partner, I wanted all that. And as that diagnosis came up, I looked at him and I said, this is your chance. Right now. If you want to leave, this is your moment. Leave now. Because I would just tell everybody that I broke up with you and that we're good. Because if you leave me when I go to treatment, I'm going to tell you were the dick that left. He did. We're still together. But now I couldn't handle it. Not just kidding. We don't share. We don't talk enough. And one thing that I learned as I was walking through the hallways yesterday, looking at like all the tables, and thank you for everybody, all the members that are here. Thank you for everything. But as I was approaching some of them and talked about, like, what do you do? What are you speaking about? I'm like, anal cancer. Like, and some people's eyes would get big and say, oh, we're talking about that. I'm like, no, we're not. That's why I'm saying it. That's why I want people to know. Other people look at me and say, thank you for bringing that up because we don't share enough about it. And I'm like, I know, anal cancer gets left behind all the time. I can't be serious all the time. Sorry, I'm really good. But one thing I also realize is that we're not playing with the same deck of cards, and we need to realize that. I need to realize that. My counterparts, white, African American, Asians, we're playing with different cards sometimes, and as a Latino, I needed to recognize that. I needed to go sit up and say, I speak a different language sometimes, I think different, there are social norms that we live by, that even though I was raised in the United States, I still live with my parents. We have cultural things that we live by, we're religious, like I'm Catholic, and I carry that Catholic guilt wherever I go. So now when I go to my doctor, I want to make sure that he understands that I just got a new doctor like a year ago during the pandemic. And I wanted to make sure that he understood that I don't play by the same cards that everybody else does, so that I can be treated in a way that works for me. There are many things in this country that work equally for all of us, but I think that healthcare sometimes doesn't. I am not the same, and I want to be treated like myself. I am not a number on a folder. I'm a name. My name is Daniel G Garza with anal cancer, HIV. I have stoma, I have diabetes, I have high cholesterol. Todo lo mexicano tengo, everything. I want everything. Overachiever para que me vean toda la gente. But I walk into an office and I want people to know that. So if you hear me talking about my butt, it's not because it's cute, it's because it gave me a lot of problems. And I don't want that for other people. So I think my time is almost up. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Loriana and Daniel, and Emily, thank you for always including the session about advocates. As advocates, first, we really appreciate everything you guys do for research because, like Loriana said, the four of us are here because of science, right? And Loriana has a little kid, and I was sharing, my kids were 10 and 14, and now are 28 and 32, and I saw them grow up because of science, even though I had cancer twice. So we really appreciate them sharing the stories, and I was going to share that this is Daniel's first cancer meeting, and we're already telling him we have to do this because as advocates, Sandy and I are in breast cancer advocacy, and we know there's a lot of advocates, even though there's not a lot of Latinas in advocacy. But for other cancers, not even in any race or ethnicity, people keep quiet, so we have to change that. So we're going to open it to questions. So while people get into asking them questions, I'm going to ask Loriana. You said that while you were in the hospital, you had the opportunity to meet other people that did not have all the resources and opportunity and connections that we have. Can you maybe share a story or someone that really impacted you and to go through the work that you're doing now?
Yes, well, let me make sure you hear me. When I was there, I was in constant denial. And so what I would do, became the walkie-talkie patient for the nurses in the room or doctors in the room. And I would go around and I said, I have to continue to tell stories and advocate. And I would go to patients' doors and tell them, hey, you gotta get out of bed, you gotta prehab. 1 day in bed sets you back 4 days in muscle strength, 4 days in bed. So I drove patients crazy, and then I drove the hospital crazy because of HIPAA. But I knew I needed to advocate because I would see that so many people didn't have a caregiver alongside them. I didn't have, my husband was trying to hold down a job he eventually lost. But I knew that I felt like some obligation to be an advocate for everyone. So when I could get up, I would get up and get my own things because I didn't want to burden the nurses. I knew they were already going through so much. I know that wasn't your original question, but it just pained me to see so much in need, and I was in denial. They would say, listen, you may not make it. Like, you need to calm yourself down. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be the 25. I'm getting out of here. Whether it's Christmas, and I checked in January, I checked out Christmas like a miracle, but constantly seeing that there was not enough support for patients. And I thought, even at a world-renowned institution that I love, and I moved and I still fly to Hopkins to get the care I know I need, that if you can't have the psychosocial, the psycho-oncology support, and the support that you need, even at a high-level institution, what is happening if there's not enough funding at other institutions in rural areas?
Thank you. I'll come back to you. Maybe you'll answer my question this time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm like that, right? It's about sense of humor and people. We can't take this more serious than it already is, right? So you have to keep living. I remember when I was bald because of the chemo, I was at the salon, and my sister, oh, what are you doing? I said, I have even a haircut and I'm blow drying. You know, I'm like, oh, right, you don't have hair, duh. So, and I began to start crying.
It's the chemo brain. I can always blame that, right?
So Daniel, now that you share your story, how would it have been changed, or how important would it have been for you to talk to someone like Daniel, and what are you going to do about it?
Say the question again.
Okay, so when you were diagnosed with cancer, would like to have someone like you help you through the process, and what do you think you can do with your story with other cancer patients?
So would I like to have somebody like me? No, I'm a mess. I wouldn't want somebody like me. Mírame, no. No, actually, I would have loved. I had a lot of gay mentors growing up. I had people gentlemen who were older, who taught me the way of the gay world, and but we never talked about that. So I would have loved for somebody to talk about health issues and how they change. This might make sense. One of the big misconceptions in anal cancer, and if you get grossed out, please pardon me. Just put your forks down for a second. There are symptoms that are similar when it comes to anal cancer, that doctors think it's just about sex. It's rough sex, you're not using enough lube, something. And had I had somebody to talk to, I would have said, well, no, I'm a Catholic prude. I don't do rough stuff. And I even turned the lights off and put that colcha over. So it's me, I'm not talking about this. I feel like my mom in heaven is watching me and I said, mijo, ¿qué estás hablando? But I would have loved for my doctor to actually talk to me and say, what are you doing sexually? Let's eliminate that out of the conversation. But we never did. So I would have loved to have that conversation.
Can I add in on speaking of intimacy, which is like the darkest secret of cancer for patients, and how it can destroy marriages and relationships, because you go in and you talk to your oncologist and you're like, things are not working. Like, not only is my skin, I have problems now. And they're like, la la la. And I'm like, no, I can't lose my marriage. He slept at my side. He's the man of my dreams. How do I fix this? Yep. So then the depression starts. You lost your job, you lost your hair, I lost my DNA, then I don't want to lose my husband, and then you lose your identity, and it just snowballs. Because the intimacy and sexuality is something that is not talked about, and that's something that needs to be addressed. to make us whole again.
Because if I just to finish that, the part that they don't tell you, because they're like, chemo, radiation, it's gonna save you, you're gonna live, and I'm like, yay, vámonos. Like, but they don't talk to you about the irritations and the consequences of chemo brain, your body, the way it reacts. Radiation, it's in your crotch, it's gonna cause some problems. Nobody ever talked about erectile dysfunction afterwards. How does that affect your relationship, especially when I was new? How do you explain to your partner? It's like, it burns, it hurts, I can't have sex right now, I don't want to, don't touch me. And then once you're better, I have an ostomy as well. Like my body issues, like don't look at me. I feel like I know y'all already. Comadre, déjame platicarte. And there are times when I don't even want to get undressed in front of me. Self-gratification sometimes feels so awkward for myself. It's like, you're not a complete man. And as a Latino macho, you're like, what am I then? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Well, you're in a mind and body you no longer recognize. And I remember coming home and yelling at my husband, and we don't yell, and I said to him, he said, I don't know you anymore. And I had a nervous breakdown. I said, I don't know me. How do you know me? I don't know who the hell I am. I look in the mirror, I don't look the same, I don't feel the same. And that breakdown just deteriorates at who you are and your ability to get back up. And so it's like you've been checked off as a patient outcome, but they're about to lose you.
But I think it also goes to what we were talking yesterday with the First Lady in terms that our caregivers really need help themselves, right? We are complaining that we don't get the help that we need, but no one are helping the caregivers. So those are things that we also, beyond advocating for ourselves and cancer patients, we have to include. I was in an appointment once and there was this couple and she was a ovarian cancer survivor, and when she went to the bathroom, the guy talks to me and says, I don't know what to do. She doesn't share with me, she doesn't tell me how can I help her? I'm frustrated, so we have to work that. So Daniel, now that you mentioned that, have you been doing things to make it better for other gay men or for people who have anal cancer for them?
I talk about my butt every chance I get. As you can tell, I'm not shy. I'm not timid. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing HIV education for 21 years now. And I record stuff, you can go to my YouTube page, there's information. The day, and people don't believe me, but the day I was diagnosed, I did go home and start a video diary. I did a 30-day video diary going through chemo and radiation. So you can see the changes. And there's no editing, it's raw. So there's days when you're like, todo está bien, vamos Dora. And then there's days when I'm like, I want to die. This life sucks. And I think that's the best way that I can help people is by not editing. So please, if you have any questions, both of us are open books, so don't walk away with doubts. Don't leave the questions behind. And that was my drum roll. I know nobody got that one. But the best thing that I can do is be honest. So if somebody approaches me and says, talk to me about anal cancer and the consequences, I talk about everything from the radiation and chemo, what it felt. My partner was my caregiver. It was a year and a half of hard work to get to where I am physically, but it's taken us about 5 years to break the mold of caregiver and patient. He still thinks of me as a patient sometimes. And that for a relationship is really hard. Nobody talks to you about that. So we talk to other couples about what they're getting into. The doctor's gonna give them all the technical stuff. We're giving them all the life part and saying, here's what you need to do. Seek a therapist. When? Now. But I haven't started treatment. Now. Start talking about it now. What about creams? Things is go on Amazon and get a wish list started so that people stop asking you what you need.
And tell them what you need.
Yes. Set boundaries with people. I talk about boundaries all the time. Like there were two things, well there was a lot, but two of the top things that people were not allowed to do around me was, number one, say I'm sorry, because I would go into like, what are you sorry about? Did you give me cancer? Did you do this to me? People are like, no, then stop saying I'm sorry. Say I'm sorry when I'm dead, and until then, I'm okay. And the second was, don't ask me how I feel. Because they go, oh, ¿cómo te sientes? How are you feeling? I'm like, I've got a ball up my butt. How do you think I feel? Like, it feels horrible. So those are things that we talk to people. And honestly, it's being honest. Anybody that comes to me, I will tell you exactly how.
So before I ask Loriana the next question, you told us that you're Mexican enough because you were diagnosed in Cinco de Mayo. But share why you are Mexican American.
Oh, my last day of chemo was 4th of July. So, yes, this year when you're launching your fireworks and eating your hot dogs, you're gonna think about me. You're welcome.
When we met Daniel over a Zoom call, he did that. I said, you have to do that in the session. Loriana, we talk, a lot of people here are scientists or working with patients, but what would you recommend people to do to help those, maybe their neighbors or people who are alone, right? You share with us that you had all your people helping you, but if we have a neighbor or something, what everyone can do on their own personal level?
Right, because it's very hard to ask for help, and I said, no, you don't need a tribe, you need a pit crew. Like, you can't have gas for the tank, but not a wheel. Like, you need different people doing different things. And I actually had to create a spreadsheet and delegate and tell people what to do, but not everyone's going to do that. My sister's going through this, she's an introvert, she doesn't want to delegate anything, and I said, listen, I'm not getting a third cancer taking care of you, I love you, but I have a son, you're going to have to ask for help because you can't take me down in the process. So I say that if patients aren't going to ask for help, and many aren't, including my sister, you need to say, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to hire a cleaning service so you can spend more time with your family. I know you're tired. I'm going to send you a meal. Here's a gift card so you don't have to cook for your family. I'm going to maybe start a GoFundMe. And I hate I'm even talking about that because I know that's not a financial way to get through a problem. But instead of asking the patient, what can we do? It's like, well, there's a lot you can do and I'll give you an assignment, but I was the type to delegate those types of assignments. So just, instead of asking, just start doing. Like, you don't want a coffee mug, you don't want like flowers, no, put the money towards something because the gas adds, the childcare adds up.
Yeah, meaningful. So I'm going to give, before I give each of you 1 minute to conclude, so everybody can stretch out and go to the break in the next session. I would like for you guys to come in and then close. When I tell people I've been a survivor for 17 years, people say, oh, congratulations. And I know it means well, but it's not, I didn't do well. I did what I had to do, right? So when we are diagnosed and we are confronted with cancer, it's not like, yeah, I did. It's what we have to do, right? And I don't know what people feel, but and I don't tell people don't congratulate me, right? But I think it's not a congratulation, right? It's what we have to do because we're diagnosed. And so I would like a comment of how you feel about that, and 1 minute to wrap up.
For me first?
Yeah.
Well, for me, I celebrate every milestone and everything, so I don't mind. You can congratulate me because for me, every day is a victory. And I call it like living between fence posts because I always feel, and maybe it's my PTSD, that I'm like, there's always a landmine that after leukemia, I thought I had checked off all the suffering needed in a lifetime, and then they said, boom, you have breast cancer. And then I moved to Georgia, and then my mom had throat cancer. Now my sister has breast cancer. And so for me, I have to celebrate every day is a victory. My husband doesn't do it, and I get on him about it, but every year on my anniversary, when I was diagnosed, I have a nice gluten-free custom-made cake that says Survivor, and I celebrate it because it's the day of my transplant, and it's the day of my new life. And it's the new person because the other person, who I am now, is definitely not who I was.
I don't mind congratulations. Congratulate me because I'm adorable. Come up here and felicidades, mijo, que ya sé. The one that bothers me is when people say, oh my God, you're so strong. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I'm not strong, I'm a survivor. Like, I just didn't want to die from cancer. Like, I didn't do it because I wanted a medal, but you can give me a medal if you want. I'm not strong, I'm not a hero. I just wanted to live. I had a relationship to deal with. I had a career that I wanted to deal with. I had family and friends. Like, I just didn't want to die. It wasn't a choice. So yes, congratulate me, but congratulate me for the work that I'm doing, not for living. I'm just living. I'm 51 years old. I'm in the best position in my life, both professionally and personally. So just, congratulate me for the work that I do. Go watch my YouTube page and then come back and go, that last video was awesome. I know.
It's all a gift.
Yeah.
You know, my son knows that he knows every day is a gift that I get to be his mom, and it's an honor and a privilege.
Any question from, I kept asking questions because nobody's got another mic, so you can ask. Okay, perfect, please. I have a couple of minutes.
Loriana and Daniel, I mean, you guys are just amazing. I'm glad that you can hear it over and over and over again, I hope. Loriana, the idea that you have presented several times, yesterday, today, about prehabilitation, about taking care of yourself to prepare yourself for the next. Within the work that I do, we have a motto, and it's called, I'm in training for my next decade.
Amen.
We're in training for what is next, whatever that is. So I would like to encourage all of us to continue to think about that, what we are working on. And thank you to Dr. Hernandez, who said, yes, Nydia, you can come and stretch them out and do a little of this and that, because that's what we're up for. It's even that little thing. And so thank you. And let's continue thinking about how we're preparing ourselves, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits for life.
With all the chemo and full body radiation I had from January till December in Latham, and most of my friends on the hall are no longer here, I wake up every day and people say, I need someone to go to the gym with me. I need a partner. I don't need a partner. I go to the gym and I work out an hour and a half a day because I want to live. If they tell me I have cancer again, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. And I'm going to be ready every single day. And I will prehab the rest of my life. And that's what we're doing with all the choices we make. What we eat, the exercise, the stress and toxicity in our lives. We're all preparing, whether you like it or not, of how you're going to present when life punches you in the face.
And I love what you said about preparing so that you can take the strongest chemo if that's what you need, because we don't want to think about that. We need to think about it. And Diane, thank you. We need to talk about these things and have the discussions. And in the therapeutic yoga classes that I teach, I like to talk about those things. It's real interesting to watch people go, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ramírez said we have up to 10 minutes, so keep the questions or comments coming.
If I can just,
Sure.
somebody yesterday got up, and I can't remember who the person was. I know that you had short hair. Somebody said we need to bring joy.
Yes.
Somebody said we need to bring joy.
I love it.
And was it you? Yes, thank you. And I was like, yeah, I want to meet her. Because it's scientifically proven that people will retain more information when you make them laugh than when you make them cry. So when I learned that several years ago in one of my public speaking classes, I was like, we'll make them laugh. And that's when I decided to take a comedy class. And I only took a comedy class because I wanted to make my speeches funnier. I wanted people to remember me.
So there'll be a quiz about mine.
And not to get too serious, but over the last 7 years of cancer and over the last 21 of HIV, I've lost friends. And there are people that I met in the waiting room going into radiation, that we followed each other, and all of a sudden it just stopped. And you send that message hoping that it gets an answer, and then somebody answers and replies, oh,
They went home.
they're not here anymore. And you're like, wow. And then imposter syndrome kicks in, and la culpa, that guilt kicks in, man. And I'm like, Diosito, why am I still here? Like with everything that I'm also a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I've been clean and sober just over 14 years, and I'm like, with everything that I've done to myself and everything that my body's done to myself, why am I still here? And my mom passed away in August of 2020, but she used to say when I was younger, she's like, Diosito por algo te tiene. God has you for something, so keep going. And I'm so blessed that these ladies trusted me to present today, and Loriana for trusting me to sit with her and be part of this power team now. We're like Superman and Wonder Woman.
You can focus as a group.
I'm Wonder Woman, of course. And, but I still try to be serious, and I can't pull it out. But it's for those people that I keep laughing and I keep joy, because I know that in their homes, they don't have that joy right now. And I do. And so, thank you for saying that yesterday. I appreciate it.
We have a comment in the,
Yes.
thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I am so grateful, first of all, for getting to be in this conference and feel comfortable around everyone who speaks my own language. I'm happy to meet Loriana, whom I follow on social media, and she's my biggest hero. I have a question for you right now. As a gay man, do you think it is important to be able to disclose your sexual orientation and gender identity with your treating physician? I think that right now we're doing a lot of efforts as an industry and as an ecosystem, finally, to address race and ethnicity. And I think we can do more on sexual and gender minorities. What recommendations do you have for us to address this moving forward?
If I could walk in with a rainbow flag and a parade behind me to every appointment, I would. Screamers, not just kidding. I would, though. I would. Yes, oh my God, yes. It's so important to talk about sexuality, to talk about sex. Now, the doctor that I had before was also Catholic, Latino, very conservative. It's like, eso no hablamos aquí. No. But the doctor I have now, from the moment I met him, we broke down the barriers. And I was like, look, here's my, like, don't even look at my chart. Let me tell you everything I'm taking. Let me tell you everything that's going on with my body. Let me tell you about my sex and my sexuality. And he's Asian and very conservative, very quiet. But I was like, I'm about to burst your bubble, boy. We're going to talk about this. And it makes such a difference because now when things are happening, for those of you who are not familiar with cancer or colorectal cancer, sometimes it's what they call the Ken butt, where they completely sew your butt and it's gone. If you ever have Ken dolls, you know what I'm talking about. I did not have that surgery, so there are still issues that happen, but I need to be able to talk to my doctor about that. And yes, if you have a doctor that you're not comfortable saying, this is what I do in bed with my partner, this is my sexuality, then you need a new doctor.
But then following up on her question, is the whole community as comfortable? Because I think what they're coming in is if they're doing research, right? And that may be important. Yeah. So is the whole community that, and what can we do or you can help the community really
that's an easy question.
Explain how they, because that's the thing. If we have a Daniel, it'll be, okay, I check the box and I'll tell you. But maybe someone else will be, that's private, don't talk to me about it.
For all you scientists, I'm ready to be cloned. Just let me know where to go. That was so humble. No, we don't. And that's the problem because think of it this way. For a gay man who has been submissive sexually most of his life, that when you meet a partner and you're going to have sex, that is your gift in the relationship sexually. All of a sudden the doctor tells you you have anal cancer. You can't have anal sex anymore, or it's gonna be very difficult. In a new relationship, you're like, well, what am I doing? Like, what can I offer you? Like, yes, there's love, but you also want to be intimate. So for a gay man to be told you have a cancer that is going to stop you from reaching that sexual peak in your life, like, nobody wants to talk about it. So it's very difficult. And we chalk it up to just, like I said earlier, rough sex, bad sex, use more lube, find other positions, don't go so big. If you laugh, you know. So we just make up all these excuses. And again, it goes back to telling the doctor, I have to tell my doctor, I don't do certain things. So it can't be that. And but I'm going to clarify. My finding out I had cancer came from a hernia surgery. I had a hernia surgery, and there were still complications they thought it from my medication, and I had trouble going to the bathroom. And then they did a probe, and they realized that I had a tumor. So then they sent me to my primary doctor. He probed me. Then they sent me to the oncologist. By the way, the joke is there. One of my opening jokes in my stand-up is, I got probed so much that I finally realized one of my childhood dreams. I realized what it's like to be a Muppet. Thank you. I know it's bad in the back. I know it's bad. But I tell these jokes to my doctor because it opens up the conversation to let him know that, hey, I'm a gay man who's able to talk about sex. But the cool thing is that I know you have a question. the cool thing is that they connect me with people now. So I do peer counseling for other gay men.
For very important when you share with your community how, as a community, this is important, and it's important to be taught, and it's important for their health, so we can all integrate the issues. We have a question or a comment there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, when you go to appointments and you have somebody with you, how the doctor approaches you, because I was hearing about that, kind of like, oh, it's so sweet that your brother comes with you every time.
I was going to add, I know this is for Daniel, but just going with my sister to all her appointments, I was so happy to hear them ask, well, who do you have with you today? Because I could be her partner, I happen to be her sister. So for me, just hearing that, which is new, going through cancer journeys, to me that's progress. I know it's not the progress that you're looking for maybe, but it was nice to see that even that question's being asked, who's with you? Is this and leaving that door open.
If you want to see a picture of my boyfriend, stop me and I'll show you a picture of him. We look nothing alike, nothing. Pero como somos morenos, we're both, are you brothers? It's like, no, we're not brothers. But he's like 6 foot tall and big. He looks Samoan. He's not, but he looks Samoan. So he's very like, this is my partner. This is my boyfriend. I'm taking care of him. And so people are like, okay. It came up to talking from the moment we walked into the reception the first time. He was very clear to say, this is my boyfriend. I'm here as support. I want to be in the appointments. We had power of attorney stuff with us. We turned in all the paperwork. Always had the paperwork. But every once in a while, there would be some sarcastic little nurse like, is this your brother? No. And then he would lean over and kiss me in the mouth or something. She's like, do brothers kiss this way? But it's a good question. Yeah, sometimes they would, and we felt a little discriminated, but we're kind of dicks. So tell you so, we kind of. Can I say that?
Just on how much support was there to you for your husband, for your partner, in terms of asking them, what's your fear with sex and how's it going?
Okay.
How much?
30-second answer for each of you, because now.
How much support did you get from your husband?
That was for me?
For both of us.
Yeah.
Oh, for both?
The caregiver, how much support you have?
I had a lot of support. We needed therapy because for 2 years they tell you after a transplant, well, we don't know if you're going to live. So I'm like, do I make memories in case I die? Resumes in case I live? I'm covered in shingles and graft versus host. So I was very insecure because I was broken. So I didn't want to have sex. My husband and I felt so guilty. And I would even have friends say, well, you need to do something for your husband. This is terrible. And, a lot of marriages end in divorce. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm just waiting to see if I'm going to make it to 2 years. So to me, that wasn't a priority, but I did feel guilty and we had to go through therapy because between cancer for a year and then 2 years, it was 3 years before we were intimate. And then after that, then it was painful and problems. And then it just starts to snowball in distance. And then you're like, are you going to leave me? So therapy is so important. And we had to talk about it.
For me, Christian became, his name's Christian, but a Católico is Christian. And Christian became my caregiver from the beginning because my family is here in Texas. And so he was people are surprised to hear, because he's very squeamish, that I had fistulas that were created from the radiation. So I had to wear diapers for a while. And if anybody knows what a fistula is, he had to clean those out. So I tell people, if you find a partner that's willing to change your diaper and wipe your butt, you keep him. He was the best. But like I said, as Loriana says, now we're going through it's like a cold. You have to clear the brain of that. He gets stressed when I travel because he's afraid something's gonna happen.
And I think there's not enough information for the caregivers, and that's another thing that we all have to work with, because they have the well of their intention, but nobody gives them information on how to deal with it. So Loriana, Daniel, Sandy, and the rest of you, thank you for this great speech.
I realize that's good. That's why I'm going to stand out. Thank you.